But let me just play something about, or just play this again so that you can understand what Mazi Nnamdi Kanu actually represented and what he said here. And he said these facts so that you can understand. Let me play to a point so that you can understand what he represents. Now watch this.
If we abandon Chukwukika Biama in truth and honesty, please give back to Biafra. Biafra can have any progress. You'll be only running around in circles. You can never.
Now this is a proof. It's very, very godly. This is a proof. He said if we abandon Chukwukika Biama, we will not get Biafra in zero. So Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is dead. Nnamdi Kanu is, and the list of characterizing Mazi Nnamdi Kanu of whom he is now represents what we actually want to see in Biafra. Now let me take you and how we'll be able to handle issues and make sure that the right thing is done. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped 2 years ago. If you remember, after the kidnap, none of us knew. Because today is going to be dedicated for Mazi. Tomorrow, we're going to speak extensively on this topic. But today, we're looking at Biafra. He's godly, he's honest, he's social, he's true and consistent. He is a just man. So he represents what we want to see in Biafra, which is different and contrary to what he hates Nigeria with passion. And most of us, our attitudes and actions prove that we actually are true and one with Biafra and one with Nigeria. Because some things I see going around in our people today is surprising. Even those who claim to be truthful, the kinds of things I see is shocking to me. Honestly, the kinds of things in the life of our people, what we portray, the actions we portray, the things we say something, we're doing something else. What we say does not look like what we believe in. You see somebody who would just go outrightly and defend the indefensible. Somebody, and yet they defend evil, they defend corruption, they defend something contrary to the spirit of Biafra, and yet we profess Biafra. That is what even some of us who speak about Biafra are doing. And this is very disheartening, very, very frustrating, and very, very painful. And that is why we must get rid of all of this attitude. If it is coming from me, I must get rid of it. If it's coming from you, you must get rid of it. Every one of us must do everything we can to make sure that we have the right spirit. Because without the right spirit, we cannot be quantized with the spirit of Biafra, which is the spirit of Chukwukike. And without being quantized with the spirit of Chukwukike, we can't get Biafra. What are we looking for? So you think all this criminality will not help us? We must do things right. Now let's look at it. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped precisely 2 years ago, 19th of June, 2021. 8 days after, none of us knew he was kidnapped. In 8 days, we never knew. But few people knew he was kidnapped. That's his secretary, some of the people in the DOS, Kanu knew, and some other people, politicians, of course we know, they all knew. Every one of them kept this story of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's kidnap secret, because it is obvious that why they kept it secret is that some have felt that, oh, he has been taken away, so he will be killed. So let the story just go on like that naturally, and then they will take control. Some were part of those who collected money to sell him. Some were just heard it and kept quiet. Now, they might not have been part of those who collected money, but they heard it and kept quiet. Now, one fundamental thing about it is that the secretary knew from the moment and called called Kanuta and told Kanuta, he has been kidnapped, which means the secretary was in touch with Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, was consistently in touch with him. Kanuta was consistently in touch with him. Some members of the DOS were consistently in touch with him. So they already had that notion. They knew he was kidnapped. How did they know? There must have been because Mazi Nnamdi Kanu himself would not have given them that information. There's no way he would have given them information, because as soon as he was kidnapped, he was kept incommunicado. They took him away. He couldn't contact anybody. But the person who made that link and verified and proved that he had been kidnapped, people like the secretary, was the one who started giving the information. He has been kidnapped. So which means that each of these people knew that program because they got information not from those who kidnapped him, but from those who initiated the kidnap. As simple as that. Because this is 2 years now, nobody had raised any committee to investigate the kidnap of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. This is 2 years today, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped. 2 years today. Now, within that period, of course, normally when somebody is kidnapped, you don't hear anything from them. Their phones are taken from them, which means Mazi Nnamdi Kanu never contacted anybody or told anybody that he was kidnapped. Then the big question is, how did the secretary, Kanunta, and others know that he has been kidnapped? That's the question that every reasonable person will ask. How did they know he has been kidnapped? For the secretary to call Kanunta and say Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has been kidnapped, how did the secretary know? And when the secretary called Kanunta, Kanunta told her that yes, he already knows, and that she shouldn't say anything about it. She should be quiet. How did they know that he has been kidnapped? Unless they are in connection with the person who initiated the kidnap, unless they are part of the kidnapping team, those who sat and discussed it and had all this information and walked along that line. Because Mazi Nnamdi Kanu never gave each of them or any of them the clue that he had been kidnapped, because he never knew he was going to be kidnapped. He was caught, and then his phones taken from him. They were torturing him, beating him up, doing every evil to him. And the people who initiated that kidnap were those ones who got the information to him. Now, somebody will say that maybe somebody who knew about it was around there when he was kidnapped. That is a big lie. That will not, the person who knew about it, that knew them, then will not have a direct link to Kanunta just like that, and the secretary just like that. Even if anybody knows Mazi Nnamdi Kanu through broadcast and all of that, they would not have access to contact Kanunta directly and the secretary directly, because they don't have any information. The secretary is not a popular person. It's not as if the secretary's number is everywhere that people can call the secretary. We just knew there's a secretary. But the secretary was working in the office. Nobody had information about them. So the person who gave them information is somebody who is part of that kidnap plan and program, which means that they are part of it also. So the person had to give them information, feed them with information that the plan had worked. Now, that being said, we'll now move forward to that. After 8 days, we now hear from the Nigeria contraption that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has been kidnapped. Now, after the knowledge we got from the Nigeria contraption, suddenly all of them, those ones who already knew, started moving around and started fronting themselves and trying to make it look like they have they are very busy about this and worried about the whole thing. And of course, let me remind you something. As soon as that happens, Kanunta was everywhere. Suddenly he became a major decision maker. He started liaising with the DOS members, making decisions, taking actions, and deciding on things. And then suddenly there was a decision that there's going to be sit at home. And then that was that period that Azuka also came and said, anybody who has been accused of stealing money or betraying Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, or anybody who is being accused of anything, should step down, should step aside until investigation is conducted. That was when the rules were being created. Some of you don't know the rules that was going to hang all of them in the throats. They themselves began to initiate those rules. The rule that will hang the rule that will hang Azuka and Simon in the throat, they started initiating those rules then. Simon came all out and he was speaking that the sit at home must hold. And he was speaking that the DOS must make sure that what they do, what they say they do. Azuka was busy saying that those who are accused should step aside and until they are investigated. These are rules and these are the things they are saying that was going to stand against them that they never knew. Chukwokige was making them set those standards by their words that they never knew they were going to be victims of their own words. Suddenly today, Azuka is stealing the monies and she's been accused, of course, not accused she's indicted, and truly she's stealing the monies. The monies are going to the husband's account. Simon is part of it. They are sharing the loot gotten from stupid Biafrans and foolish people out there. They're getting the loot, and yet they refuse to step aside even after they have said it initially when Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped. And they refuse to step aside, and they are still busy dancing, pressing their breasts, drinking champagne, doing all of those stuff online to make you to tell you that they are to tell you that you are nothing, that your words are nothing, and they are mocking you, telling you that you are stupid, and they will keep celebrating, using your money and doing what they have to do with your resources. Now let's go back to that time when Mazi Nnamdi was kidnapped. As soon as that will happen, they came with all these shenanigans. Suddenly, Kanu came and said the sit-at-home must be cancelled because people must go to school, because students were having exams. Of course, we understand that narrative, how we were resisting it, how we were doing all we were doing as at that time, resisting it. Remember, we are speaking, I'm bringing all of this to your memory so that you will know what and how we got here and why we have been dormant all this while. Today is the 19th day of June, marking the precisely 2 years after Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped. And that is why we're going on this narrative today under this particular topic, of course, the same. Now listen to it. Now, as soon as that came, suddenly these people began to talk about canceling the sit at home. Kanu was busy getting himself everywhere, busy flaunting himself around because he felt that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will not survive it. And we're not stupid. Let's reason. Let's speak the truth. Let's face the facts. He was busy saying everything, moving around, making decisions, forcing the DOS, causing them to make decisions because he felt Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was not going to come up, because he wanted to now take control. We have not forgotten. 2 years down the line, here we are. 2 years down the line, here we are. Today being precisely 2 years after the kidnap. Now listen. As soon as that was done, sorry, I don't know what happened to my stuff. It went. Now, as soon as that was done, what happened? Suddenly, they canceled the sit at home. That was in July. And 2 months to the Anambra election. Everything started happening like magic. Of course, Simon was not part of the loot as at that time, so he was not gaining anything. So he needed to stand on the part of the people. He needed to stand on the side of the people. He needed to stand with the voice of the people, because everybody was saying this will not happen. They have to do the right thing. And so he had no choice than to capitalize on that, to also build his profile and build his page and his blog, and to make sure that he's getting the attention of the people. So he had to stand with the people. Now, why I said this, let me tell you why I said this. Because if you remember the period of Nelly, when Nelly was dishing out all she was dishing out, Simon was not saying anything, remember? Rather, sometimes when you force him, what he does is he comes to tell you that he is Nelly and Nelly is him, and that he doesn't need to castigate Nelly. Now remember, now why he was saying that is because he was observing the actions and reactions of the people. If the people are going to accept the Idu narrative of Nelly, so he didn't say anything about it. In fact, at a point when what's the name of that one? Is it Jiro or whatever that one's name is? Forced him to an interview to speak about Biafra. At a point he said Biafra was dead. He mentioned it because he felt at that point that it seems something else is coming up. So he wanted to be in the right. He wanted to be on the side of popularity, that side where everything is just going to go by the popular votes, so that he will keep building his platform and boosting his platform based on popular votes and popular support. So what Simon was doing, that he was observing the narrative. Once he see where the people are tilting towards, he now he chose to come by the people's. He chose to decide to do and to be by the side of the people, because he needed to be by the side. And so the sit at home was cancelled. Simon followed the people, the part of the people. The people, he started saying, sit at home. The people were very, very happy with Simon because Simon was supporting the people, talking about the sit-at-homes. Comrade, I'm still going to give you time. I just so that they can understand on the things so that you can comment. Now, after that, the next thing was Anambra election. The narrative was because the politicians were part of those who kidnapped Nnamdi Kanu. And so we said Anambra election was not going to hold. So for us to hold them to that point where they are going to that the Anambra election will not hold. Simon saw that the people were also in that path. Simon followed suit. He got into that path and got along and was screaming, Anambra election will not hold. We all came together, we were rallying together. So because he had the platform already, everybody was supporting him. Everybody was going around that lane. We all were thinking and going through. We were all in that together. But we already saw the signs that the members of the DOS were compromised. Their leader, the commander-in-chief, is in the hands of the enemies. They cancelled sit-at-home that was meant to protest his arrest or his kidnap and extraordinary rendition. His extraordinary kidnap and extraordinary rendition. Meaning that there is something about this kidnap that connects them. Because even when calls were made here and there for them to put up a panel to investigate the whole matter, none of them did. In fact, they shied away from it. In fact, they never said anything about it. Now that's been and then suddenly Anambra election came, and then all they did was they started playing the game here and there. They didn't want to be straight. Suddenly they started going into a path with these politicians. Of course, when Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped, there was a path with the politicians already, which Ejiofor himself said that there had been a discussion on how peace will return to the Southeast. Because as at this time, ESN had been created. And ESN was working very, very hard to make sure that the killers of our people in Biafra land, the Fulanis and their stooges, are brought to justice. All of these were the actions of the Fulanis. And the Fulanis felt that this is translated, or this means, or the politicians also, Biafra politicians also, defined it to mean that there is no peace in Biafra land, because there's a force now that is able to withstand their own force, their Fulani stooges, both the military, both the police, both the ones in the bushes and all of that. They knew that the ESN was formidable. Anything that threatens their control and their ability to use their forces that is designed in the name Nigeria to control Biafra land. Anything that threatens it means no peace in Biafra land to them. So the definition of no peace in Biafra land was an expression that meant that ESM has been formed and is in action. So all they needed to do is they needed to take Nnamdi Kanu off. That was why China Sanwo said that there had been a meeting and a premonition to kill Nnamdi Kanu before time. China Sanwo said that he got the information that Ejiofor even told him. And so they were part of the program to take Nnamdi off, meaning that they felt that Nnamdi Kanu was the threat that they have in Biafra land. And so all they needed to do was to take him away from that path. Now I'm taking you through the chronicles now. I'm taking chronologically now so that you can understand how all these things have played out. Today is the making it 2 years precisely Nnamdi Kanu has been kidnapped, was kidnapped and extraordinarily renditioned. Extraordinarily kidnapped and extraordinarily renditioned. 2 years today. Now we are looking at the things, the stories, the activities, the things that have happened, how people got into it, how people got involved, how people began to benefit, how people began to, gain from it. We're looking at all these details just here in this program. And that is why we must understand that what we are doing is either directly or indirectly keeping Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Again, if tomorrow comes and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is still there, it simply means that it is now 2 years and 1 day. And the more days come in, 2 years, 2 days, 2 years, 3 days, and which means that we are the ones keeping him there, because obviously the Fulanese and the Nigeria contraption had shown us that they will not release him. They don't have an intention to release him. They didn't go that far to spend the millions to give to people, people, Biafrans for that matter, to give them money to get their brother, to sell their brother. They wouldn't go that far to give them the money to sell their brother and release him unto you. We need to take actions that will force them. Remember the other time Malami was speaking. He said he has not seen anything in Biafra land that makes it very, puts them in the position to think about the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. There's no emergency situation. He said it clearly. It was a message, clear. Simon came up and spoke about it. We all analyzed it. We all looked at it. We all said it, yes, we need to do something in Biafra land that will cause them to come to their knees and make sure that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was released. And that was why we said there will be no election in Biafra land. Even if we couldn't do anything at the point, we're building towards Biafra land. I mean, towards the no election. The pressure was towards no election. Now let's go back. As soon as that happened, and the sit at home was cancelled, somehow, the people sat at home because we all wanted Mazi Nnamdi Kanu out. And then from then, we now started saying we're going to sit at home every Monday. Of course, Simon was looking for that popular side to always be so that people will keep supporting and patronizing his platform. He came on that also. He accepted the people's design and started clamoring that the sit at home, yes, must continue. And the sit at home must continue on Mondays. And then the Anambra election came. And we began to see, it's just like what Fela said, government magic, then turn electric to candle, then turn green to white. Government magic. You know, when he talked about when Kalakuta Empire was attacked, I think in 1978 or so, no, it's 1979, when his mother was thrown from the window and all of that, when he was given that narrative of how the soldiers came to his place. Government magic. Then suddenly they begin to bring instruments of magic. They begin to bring inquiry. They bring an inquiry. He said they bring inquiry. They form a panel, you know, bring justice and all of that, and they come together. And suddenly they say that the people who came to his house were unknown soldiers. And after they have killed people, after they have killed students in Fela's house. The same way also, the DOS members started this shenanigan, started this jingoistic approach to the whole thing. Suddenly, now Anambra election was held. And everybody was shocked. And the problem here is, the problem I want to bring out of this is this. Why is it that when the DOS members stole the resources, or no, not stole the resources, took monies from Soludo and Co. to make sure that the election of Anambra was held, why didn't the people themselves reject and refuse to come out to vote during that election? So let's just, because we want to blame, people want to blame the members of the DOS for collecting money to make sure that Anambra election is held. If everybody in Biafra land has sat back and said, no, we're not going to come out, will that money they collected have any effect? Which means that as much as these people, the DOS members and other politicians who are part of the kidnap and extraordinary rendition of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu are concerned, as long as they are part of this and sold Mazi Nnamdi Kanu directly or indirectly, we also have helped them. We also have helped them by coming all out to vote during the Anambra election. So which means that we also indirectly or somehow directly sponsored the continued detention of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu by coming all out during the Anambra election to vote. So those of you who are from Anambra who voted, you are directly involved in sustaining Mazi Nnamdi Kanu beyond that period of that Anambra election in DSS dungeon. You should know that. So we're trying to bring out the facts from this whole thing. That's the essence of this broadcast today. Now, comrade, please just give me some little time. Let me express this, and then you're going to come in, because I want the people to understand this, because we have to refresh the minds of the people so that we all will know what we are doing wrong, and then we take actions right now to correct these odds, because we are too wicked to ourselves. We are too wicked. We are very heartless. What people are doing now is support criminality. You see something that is white, you say is blue. You see something that is blue, you say is red. You see evil, you keep sponsoring evil. And you say you want freedom, you say you are seeking. What kind of Biafra are you seeking? Thank you so much, Emmanuel Prince. He said, yeah, Biafrans aided the continued detention of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. That for the fact that the people of Anambra came out to vote for him, they aided the continued detention of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. So don't shift blames. Yes, we know that these guys collected money. Ejiofor and Co collected money. Chinasa Wunro and Co collected money to sell that opportunity that we have to make sure there is no election in Biafra land. I mean, during the Soludo time in September 2021. But the truth about it is that for the fact that you came out to vote means that you are so wicked, you are so heartless, you are so evil. If you are in the position also, you will collect money. Because I don't know why you are voting when your brother is, because of you, is unjustly kept somewhere because of you. What are you coming to vote? What now that you have voted, what are you getting? How wicked and heartless we are. And we want freedom. And you think you can get freedom like that? You can get freedom by being wicked, by getting yourself involved in criminality, by supporting criminality. I see some, even till now, I see some evil going on, some terrible things. Somebody will come all out and begin to defend criminality. You see this thing that clear, this thing is evil. You see this thing that you pay for something, and this thing is the person you gave money to do this stuff has not done it well. And the person obviously gave you something substandard, yet you are still, oh Lord, have mercy. You give Simon money for no election in Biafra land. Simon took the monies, they shared the monies, they did all of that. They didn't sponsor ESN, they projected their own force, raised their own empire, raised their own militia, and then election held. And you are still there saying that this is right. You are wicked. What else do we call you? What else do we call you? You are evil. You are very evil. Now let's go back. Anambra election was held because you people from Anambra State voted. Because stop blaming Chike, Dozim and Co. or whatever, they collected money. Yes, you are part of them because what they did was what you did. You allowed election. If they collected the money and you sit at home, who is? But you went out to vote. You are part of those who kept us in Nnamdi Kanu beyond the Anambra election, because the Anambra election was supposed to give us an opportunity to make sure Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is first released before we allow elections. But you allowed Mazi Nnamdi Kanu to stay there and sold him the second time. Whether directly or indirectly, whether you got cash or not, you sold him. Because by voting, you sold him. It's like Esau taking the porridge to sell his birthright. He doesn't need to transfer cash. He just needs to say something. And for the fact that he supported what Jacob was, sold it. And for the fact that he took the food, and you took the food, you took the apple off election, ate it. You have. Now, of course, we all started condemning it. And we started looking for blame. And the DOS collected money. And so Anambra blames. Nobody was talking about the people. Everybody was talking about Chikodozium and all of that. Simon also capitalized on that to blame all of them and to make sure that they are himself to sell them and cut off the radar, gets them off the link, gets them off the line, and make sure that he is now the one in front. So he used the same way also Simon was talking about criminality. Simon was talking criminality and kept talking about your criminality until you began to believe in him, Simon, to see that supporting him and giving him your funds. You started supporting Simon and giving him your funds because he actually exposed the criminality of these people. He exposed their criminality. Now look at it. Then suddenly we kept insisting the Monday sit at home must be held, but we lost the chance of Anambra election. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is still there, still kept in that dungeon, still kept there to suffer, still believing in the movement for freedom for you and I. And because he believes in the freedom for you and I, he's kept there, not was. He's kept there. And we here now outside the dungeon, we now were doing things anyhow to sustain him in the dungeon. We allowed Anambra election to hold. The people of Anambra sat and allowed the election to hold. I know that some people didn't vote because some people really protested, but majority of the people came out to make sure that they sustained the Nigeria contraption in Biafra land by endorsing the Anambra election and making sure it holds and continue. Moving from that point, I have about 10 minutes more, then Comrade will come in. I have about 10 minutes more to narrate this. Now, moving from that point, we now forwarded it. We now went forward. We started talking about sitting at home. And then we started seeing attacks. By this time, people have lost hope in these people because for allowing Anambra election to hold, every other aspect of Biafra land, everybody was angry. And so everybody says now Simon must be the one to follow because he has been sustaining since he has the platform. And Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, by what we heard, said that he should broadcast on Radio Biafra. Naturally, we felt that since Mazi Nnamdi Kanu have given them opportunity to broadcast in Radio Biafra, and these people refusing to broadcast, that means they see something about him that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu and sees, and Mazi Nnamdi Kanu also wants him to actually hold forth until he's back. And so, because the people see that, because these same people who have sold Mazi Nnamdi Kanu see that, and we wanted to get away from them, knowing that for them to go against Simon means that they are actually also going against the freedom of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. At the same time, they don't want, there's something about Simon that they don't want to come, because knowing that they are against Mazi Nnamdi Kanu means that for them to be against Simon also, there's something about Simon that they also want to get rid of, so that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's mandate will not be fulfilled. So everybody supported, and then that was how Simon came into the play. And when Simon came into the play, what happened? We started asking questions, the resources, the monies. And Madam Oyibo said nothing, no, nothing in the purse. That was when Nelly came all out and started speaking about this whole thing. Yes, it was not Simon alone that exposed the DOS. We know all of that. But of course, he was supporting, because he had a platform, he was supporting the same thing that we all knew, because we all know that we already analyzed the whole thing. In fact, if I wanted to broadcast it then, I would broadcast it more fantastically than him, because I would give more exposition. There are so many facts. There are so many intuitive facts that you can deduce from the whole process. So most of us out there have more information than what he had. He only collected information from the things that were given to him. Things like what Nelly gave to him, things like what the Umada gave to him, he was speaking on. So he was holding meetings and getting information and using them against Chike and Co. And now he's a criminal. He doesn't want anybody to speak about him, and his followers and his EFROGs don't want anybody to speak about him. Anyways, we're going to get there. Now the issue of the new dispensation came, and Simon is the one being fronted here. We all started supporting him, and there was a need for resources. Now we discovered there's nothing in the purse. Nelly started talking about it, and they started trying to expose the thing, talking about cash and all of that. That was when Azuka also came and said that people who are indicted should step down. And that was when they started playing that, magic. That's kind of magic, that's fella called government magic. They started playing that game again, and all of that. And then suddenly there was a need to change account. And what happened? The person who is in charge of the website, who can block people from paying into the account since money was not there, who is called Azubike, was contracted. And luckily for Simon and Azuka, for their business to thrive, I don't know what they promised, what they told, what the agreement they had with Azubike. Azubike now changed agreements to these next people. Because let me tell you something. For Oyibo and Co. to be stealing the resources there, and Azubike is in charge of the website, he knows he must have been having some shares from it. It's as simple as that. Because if he knew that the monies were coming in and not being used appropriately, of course, because we saw lots of leaks, we saw monies being released here and there, and of course there were stories of monies being stolen. So Azubike is aware. So Azubike would have cut it if he's a genuine. He would have cut that flow of money and insist that the right thing be done. He never cut the flow of money. The money was still going on, and going into the accounts through the websites. Now, when Azuka and Simon now contracted as Azubike, what happened? Yes, thank you so much. The highest bidder, Azubike, succumbed to their deal because they must have promised him heaven and earth and something more than what Oyibo has been given to him. So that was why he accepted. And that gives you a clue that Simon and Azuka had a premonition or a pre-plan to dupe Biafrans. Because if they were able to get Azubike to believe and accept their terms, that means that term was favorable to Azubike. Because for sits down and monies are entering into Azuka's husband's purse from that account up to date and flowing concurrently and consistently. And even when Kennedy asked a question during the 1,000 men meeting, Kennedy and Wogos asked a question and asked for Azuka to tell the people if the husband is a signatory. Quickly, Azuka, trying to dodge that question, told Azubike to respond, and Azubike now pretended as if he didn't hear the question and was just dancing around until Sonora Parawa now also came with his own Ogogoro style and cut everybody off. Preconceived plans. Yes, thank you so much, Kunon View, for that. Yes, preconceived. That was why Azubike danced to their tune, because there was a preconceived plan to steal. So they needed to drag Azubike into that plan. Azubike, don't worry. You're going to leave these people, leave Oyibo and co. How much were they giving you? We're going to give you better. That means there is a plan on ground that people didn't know. People felt that someone just got corrupted later. No, there are signs and evidences of all of this stuff. No conscience. Thank you, Ego. Now, we're looking at Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's kidnap. This is the second year now. Today, 19th of June, makes it 2 years Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped. Now, we're looking at the narrative. Chronologically now, we're looking at the narrative so that you can understand the things that have been happening. The things that have been happening. There's no way Azubike would have accepted to divert that website without him having his interest met. Because there must have been an interest with the other side. Oyibo. So for that to happen in this time, he has to get the highest bid from them so that his interest will be secure, better than what he was getting with Oyibo and co. That was when Azubike accepted to hijack the website, cut Oyibo and co off, and fix Azuka and the husband and Simon on the account. Of course, Simon, trying to play smart, stayed as if he was staying aloof, as if he was not part of the account, tells us now when we had that meeting that he's not going to be a signatory in the account, not knowing that that account is directly the account of husband, and all they needed is add 1-2 people like Azubike, who is also part of the website because he's going to get his interest, people like Erewa, who's going to be there, and all of that, those 2 people, and then add them to the account. And maybe Chichi also, I don't know, I've forgotten who the people they say down, that's signatories. The husband being in charge of the account, and Azuka pretending she's not also a signatory, whereas the husband is in charge. If your husband is in charge of the account, then you have the details of the account. And then they got their best friends and their accomplices. Azubike, they have already gone into contract with to be part of it, and got Arewa, who is also oh Lord have mercy. I don't want to say something, but because of her age, I don't want to say something about her. They all agreed, and their team, their rogue team, began another dispensation of criminality. Now, remember, all of these things are on the flawed structure that had existed before now. Remember, that is why I told you that once the system is flawed, once the structure is flawed, criminality is evident, because there's no way you can waive criminality from a faulty structure. Unless you set a structure right, you will not have people. You will not have people do the right thing. Even if they plan to be innocent, there is a weakness in them that will want to take sides, or cut corners. So, as soon as they saw the lapses, when I gave the suggestion to Simon directly during our meeting, during the meeting when we're discussing, the issue of the put the accounts when they now told us, they have retrieved the account. Azubike has agreed, they have retrieved. They didn't give us details of all of those facts. Prince, you have to believe anything, because when you know people, what they have done when they were young, they can never change. If you see the way she was talking on that audio, you know that this person, when she was young, she was somebody else. So from that, we already know the kind of person she is. No wonder she is now covering all of these anomalies. Now, so they came all out and told us, wow, the accounts have been retrieved. We were happy, but they never told us the details of how they retrieved the account. So because there have been these lapses, which they were able to get away with Nnamdi Kanu, there was no structure. Monies were put in the hands of people. Now remember, structure doesn't mean only for money. Structure means the total makeup of the organization for smooth administrative programs or processes that will enhance the managerial or the management process. So when you have the structure on ground, management will be very intact, because administration will run smoothly. Because administration and management runs on a structure that is effective. So if management and administration must be proper, your structure must be effective. That is why if you don't have a structure, you should have, when you see a place where there is no structure, don't invest in that. That is why I'm so sad and angry with those people who were giving money to Azuka, or all of these people, or Yubo and all of that, and they were not asking questions. Even those people who were given money during Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's time should have asked questions. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, please let the structure be set so that we will not have problems. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's influence was the only reason why some things were done. If I tell you, and if we tell you how much was expended based on the fact that there was no structure, they stole from Mazi Nnamdi Kanu so much that you will wonder the things they used for, the amounts they used for only Radio Biafra would have sorted ESN and given ESN all the weapons they needed. So they made Mazi Nnamdi Kanu not to keep a structure properly. They caged him, but he was. They saw the lapses. They capitalized on the lapses, and Simon, even after the advice, still kept on with the lapses. Now, Comrade is here because I've taken much time. So, Comrade, I want to take this story bit by bit until I get to the last, because I needed to give this narrative. I want you to come to from your side of view, your own point of view, what you feel about this whole thing. Also, please, the mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Kelechi. You know, the issue is that we have gone a long way, and things have fallen apart. The issue of the DOS, the issue of Simon Ekpa, the issue of money being donated, a lot of things have happened. And the major thing is just that